Hey everybody, today I'm going to show you how to make some sourdough bread. We're going to make the dough today and then we're going to bake it tomorrow. Here's all of our ingredients pre-measured. We have 235 grams of water, about a cup, 7 grams of salt, about a teaspoon, 300 grams of bread flour. You want to use a good high quality bread flour. Here I'm using King Arthur, not sponsored. And then we're going to be using my homemade sourdough starter. I like to use a wooden spoon, makes it a little easier than using my fingers. That way it kind of keeps it a little cleaner. So what I like to do first is mix the salt and the water together in the bowl to get the salt dissolved. So I'm going to pour in my water, I'm going to pour in my salt, and then I'm just going to go ahead and use my wooden spoon here. I'm going to go ahead and add in 60 grams of my homemade sourdough starter. So I'm just going to put the scale down here. Alright, 61, that'll do. What I like to do next is also use the spoon here and dissolve the starter into the water and salt. Alright, then we're going to add our bread flour here. You can add it all at one time. Now, what makes it useful with the wooden spoon, I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to do circles. And as you see, the dough is going to start coming together. This is a little bit of a higher hydration dough, so it's going to be a little loose. And we're going to scrape down the side of our spoon here to get all that dough there. And then I'm just going to scrape down the side of the bowl. Now what we're going to do is take a clean cloth and we're going to cover our bowl and we're just going to let it sit at room temperature for 1 hour. And in an hour we're going to come back and we're going to do some stretch and folds, and I'll show you what those look like soon. So it has been 1 hour. Our next step, after our dough has been resting, I've got a cup here with just some filtered water. We're going to go ahead and take the top off. We're going to do what we call stretch and folds. So the water, I'm going to wet my fingertips so that way we don't stick to the dough. And then I'm going to shake it off. I'm going to come in here with my fingers almost in a swooping motion. And I'm going to pull the dough up and then fold it over. As you can see, the dough is coming together, but it's still pretty loose, so it's going to take time for it to come together. That's why we're doing the stretch and folds, to build gluten development. So this first round of stretch and folds is not going to look very good, but when we come back and do our second, you're going to see how different the dough looks. So I'm going to go ahead and go around 4 times, turning the bowl 90 degrees each time. And that's what it's going to look like. So we're going to come back in 30 minutes. And we'll see how it looks. Alright, so it has been 30 minutes and we're going to do another round of stretch and folds. You'll be able to see that the dough is a little more cohesive now. We have a little more structure to it. It's not as stringy. And you can kind of see the shape there. Definitely coming together. So once again, we're just doing our stretch and folds. So I'm turning the bowl 90 degrees each time. And we're just folding it over itself. We're going to do this for a total of 4 times. Alright everyone, you know the drill. We're back for our third round of stretch and folds. Going to wet our fingertips. As you can see, the dough is coming together really well now. There's a lot more gluten strength, and we can pull it a lot further without it stretching and breaking. This dough is a little bit of a high hydration, so it is going to be pretty loose. But as you can see, we can take this dough and we can form it into a nice little ball at the bottom of the bowl, and it's holding a structural shape. After we do the third stretch and fold, I'll show you what the window pane test is and how that works. Alright everyone, this is our final stretch and fold, and at this point it's been a total of 3 hours. So we mixed the dough, we let it sit for an hour, and then we did stretch and folds every 30 minutes. So I'm going to dip my hands in here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull. As you can see, the dough is super elastic now. It's holding its shape really well, and it's not stringing. Now we're going to perform a window pane test. And the window pane test is just to verify that we have good gluten development. What we want to be able to do is stretch this dough as thin as we can, so we can see light through it, but our finger won't poke through. So as you can see, I just wet my fingertips to run it. And this is super thin. I mean, I can see my fingers through it. I'll go to the point that it breaks just so you guys can see, but it takes a lot to get to that point. So we know we have good gluten development. We know we're ready to go. So now, I'm just going to flip this over. Why not? And I'm going to let the dough sit in this bowl for 3 hours to do its final proof. When we come back in 3 hours, it's going to be a little bubbly. And at that point, we'll go ahead and pan this into the banneton, and I'll show you what we do next. Alright, so it's been 3 hours that our dough has been sitting. I have a little flour here that's actually just left over from baking. What I'm going to do is dip my fingers again in the water, and I'm going to plop the dough out onto this surface here. This little bit of flour will be helpful with shaping. So I'm just getting it all out. I'm trying to get it all out in one piece. There's some stragglers. I'm just going to kind of put that in there. Now what I find easiest is to wet your fingertips on both hands. And I'm going to spread this out into a rough rectangle. Some of it's going to stick to the table, the countertop, and that's not a big deal. And then I like to come in from the left here and fold over. And I like to come from the right here and fold over. Wetting my fingertips. I don't want it super wet, but I don't want it dry. So I'm going to pull and fold over. And I'm not super good at this, so if you have any critiques, let me know in the comments. But I'm going to stretch and pull over, stretch and pull over, stretch and pull over until we have our shape here. What I like to do is kind of taper in the sides. Like I said, I'm not good at this at all, but I find that even if it's not perfect, it comes out decent. This is also a little difficult to work with because we're working with a higher hydration dough. So I'm going to take my banneton here, which is just basically a bamboo basket with a cloth. You could literally use a towel. But since I have them, I'm going to use them. This is just a little bit of rice flour, and I'm going to shake this. You can use normal flour. I find that rice flour really does work better. So we'll get a nice little coat on there. And then this is the hard part. So I'm going to wet my fingertips, fold it over, and then we're going to put it in there. If you see any bubbles like this, you can just pop them. So that way when you bake the bread, it doesn't kind of come out weird. And then I'm going to kind of stretch this so it fills the container. Don't worry, because the gluten's going to relax and it's going to kind of spread out. And then when we ferment it in the fridge, it'll kind of rise back up a little more. So that's good to go. And that's it. All I'll do on top of that, let me just clean my hands here. All I'll do is just put a little bit of rice flour so the bag doesn't stick to it. And I'm going to take a normal shopping bag, and we'll take our dough, and I just put it inside like this, and tie down the top. I try to get most of the air out. All you want is a sealed bag, so that way it doesn't give you a skin on top of the dough, because if there's air circulation, you're going to get a skin. And then we're going to take this and follow me to the fridge. And we're just going to pop that right into the fridge where it'll stay for 24 hours, and then we'll bake it.